Hey guys, it's Friday, October 21st, and after a much-needed hiatus, I am back to give my opinion on the final 3 weeks of the season. Now, Week 17 kicks off this afternoon as the Edmonton Eskimos pay a visit to the Toronto Argonauts at Rogers Centre. Following that is another game when the Riders meet the Stamps in Calgary. Both the Riders and the Argos would be alright with playing spoiler to the chances of a home playoff date. Now, for the first match, I want to talk a little bit about running backs and their numbers. On the Eskimo side of the ball, of course, there's Jerome Messam. He has 154 carries for 849 yards and has, astoundingly, only lost one fumble over the course of this season. Now, when he has 9 or more carries, the Eskimos have an 8-1 record, but a dismal 1-5 when he gets 8 or less attempts. Against an Argonaut defense that has allowed a league-high 136 yards per game, I expect Messam to keep padding those stats. On the flip side, the double blue is carried on the shoulders of Corey Boyd. Now, when your team registers only 118 yards passing, throws 4 interceptions, and still registers the win, it says a lot about the quality of the running game. Boyd is currently sitting 4th on the CFL rushing list, having notched 140 carries for 813 yards. However, his test will be much tougher this week against an Eskimos defense that is suddenly ranked right up at or close to the top of most categories. Now, of course, a running game can't be the only facet of an offense in this league. We are, after all, generally a passing league. The Eskimos have a lethal downfield trio in Jason Barnes, Fred Stamps, and Adarius Bowman, who have combined for a total of 2,472 yards on 154 catches. Now, as long as the offensive line can continue to give Ricky Ray the kind of time he got last week, I expect those numbers to keep climbing. It is an entirely different story on the other side of the ball, though. The top 3 receivers who are on the field this week for the Argonauts are Chad Owens, Jermaine Copeland, and Andre Dury. These 3 have combined for only 648 yards on 141 catches. The offensive line for the Boatmen seemed to collapse last week and let Stampeder defenders get through without much resistance at all in the second half. If that continues, the Eskimos' defensive line will be passing the Bombers for top of the sack tally, and the Double Blues' reception yardage will stay low. I'm going to have to give this one to the Eskimos. Their running game is better, their pass attack is a pick your poison, and I think they want the home spot more than Toronto wants to keep it from them. As for the second half of the doubleheader, the biggest story is, of course, the quarterback change in Stampeder's camp. After putting together an outstanding relief effort in Toronto last week, only to have the defense let him down, Drew Tate will be under center this week. In reading from a prepared statement, Coach Huffnagel called Henry Burris hesitant and explained that in giving Tate the start, it will give Hank time to breathe and see the game from a different point of view. Now, I, for one, think this should have been done quite a few games ago. In the 7 weeks since Labor Day, the Stamps have gone an abysmal 2-5. Over those 7 games, Burris threw 7 interceptions and lost 8 fumbles. It's high time for a change, and if Tate performs well tonight, I see no reason why the Stamps would bring Burris back for any portion of the season. I have a great deal of respect for Tate, and it takes a lot for a Stampeder to gain that from me. I was impressed by the way he controlled the huddle and held the receivers accountable when they dropped balls or missed them completely. If he remains at the helm, I could even see myself not wanting to throw up when cheering, "Go Stamps, go." Now, all this brouhaha about the quarterback controversy has taken the eyes of the public away from a bend and break defense. 2 weeks in a row, they have not only failed to stop last-second drives, but contributed to their completion. Last week in Toronto, they took 3 penalties that allowed first downs when all seemed stalled for the Argonauts. The week before, they did basically the same thing against the BC Lions, and both times it resulted in a loss by 1 or 2 points. Discipline seems to have gone out the window for this group of guys, and I can't help but wonder why. Why would you take a dumb penalty when you know that a home playoff date is on the line? Why not play a clean game in order to secure the win? Why has this team seemed unable to finish in the past 7 weeks? Now, all of these questions may become moot this evening, as the Stamps are, after all, facing the Riders. No disrespect, but the green and white seem to have stopped playing quite a few weeks ago. No, that's a fib. They've played okay ball between the 20s, but the red zone has become the dead zone. Not a single touchdown scored in over 16 quarters of football. It doesn't matter how good the stats are if you can't finish drives, and it doesn't matter how good the defense is if the offense can't produce. I don't think the Stampeders will have trouble finishing off the Riders tonight.